My name is Jean Carrick.
Roger Cushman Edward.
Galen McCarty Turner.
Land use planning, from the government level, says that a beach should not be a place for houses.
Most favorite thing about Salmon Beach? You're in Tacoma, but you're not. Point Defiance is your backyard, and the Narrows is your front yard.
As a community, it was not really organized at all. And some of the people are still embarrassed to say, well, yeah, I used to live at Salmon Beach a long time ago, but now it's more respectable down there, but it used to be just a bunch of drunks and bums back in the good old days.
And then we got the newer people that are, I guess, fall in love with this kind of rustic chic and, the amazing, beautiful nature and whatnot. And they buy down there to start their families, which is the opposite of when I was down there. It was a bunch of alcoholics that ran away from their families.
Okay, well, see, the definition of community is kind of basically, is each shack or cabin individually owned? Well, they still are individually owned, but the huge difference was in 1977 when we got together as a corporation and bought land, okay? And that makes a huge difference as far as getting a mortgage. You think a bank's going to give you a mortgage on a shack? Probably not.
You don't have neighbors, you are neighbors down there, is what I like to say. Like, you actually will knock on a door and say, can I have a stick of butter or something, or steal some eggs from the chicken coops or something.
My most favorite thing is that my kids live in a place that they can rent free, and everybody here knows them, and they all know my dog.
I do see that, you can just open your door and let them go, and everybody treats them as if they were their kids, like, hey, we're gonna feed your kid tonight, and kind of thing, or just knocking on doors, seeing if people can play, and not having to worry so much. Is kind of like, hey, come home when the sun goes down, kind of thing, which that was very common for us, and I don't know if that's still very common for people up the hill. It's funny, it's like up the hill, down the hill kind of worlds.
You go to a party here, and you'll have newborns all the way up to 88 years old, and we're all like this extended family of aunts and uncles and grandparents, but none of us are related. One of my favorite stories is when Keeler was born, which is my first daughter, and I had a ridiculously long delivery. I think it was almost 24 hours, and it was August. So it was middle of August, and Chris called up your grandpa Ed, and they talked, and Ed was like, "Hey, I could meet you guys at the boat ramp, and I can boat Gene and the baby around." And so, it was this most beautiful ride home for me, and then to bring Keeler into Salmon Beach in that way, and then that whole cluster of people were. I was living in cabin 21 at the time, and he pulls us up right underneath cabin 21, and and there's this whole pile of people, just a whole bunch of different ages, hanging out, waiting for the baby to show up on Salmon Beach, the new beach baby, and the joy in their faces was not family. They're not family, but the joy in everybody's faces was like they were coming home, like to family. So, that's one of my favorite memories.
I've lived here since July of 1962. Understand, as you get older, your athletic abilities, change, and your interest in living on a beach like this with the wild waves and the wind, can change your method of enjoyment down here. There's a time in life to basically ask yourself, is it safe to live here? Well, I see issues as basically raising houses higher so they don't get flooded like this one did here in the most recent king tide episode.
Landslides happen, and then we find out there's somebody that's gonna hear about it that we don't want to hear about it, and so immediately we try to make everything look like it's just fine.
The worst landslide was in January of 1919 that wiped out 14 houses, 14 cabins, not houses.
Every tragedy that happened in Salmon Beach, like every time there's major chaos and there'd be a fire, and everybody's grabbing their hoses and putting it together, and it doesn't even require any conversation. It's almost happened just by, like, everybody just finds out immediately and everybody comes running. One of the great things, one of my other great memories is when they built the big garage up top. And a couple times we've had these big houses that were just completely empty, like Jack and Emily's house and then the big garage. And they'd have a big old hoedown basically. And not square dance. Is it square dancing?
Yeah.
Yeah, square dance. And middle of the night, just everybody shows up, and everybody from, I think I was pregnant at the time with Avia, so, I was like a baby belly, and then my 3-year-old, and then our family, and then everybody up to, their 80s. Just all there doing their square dancing together and hanging out. Pretty awesome. Pretty rare.
You still look, we got the train tunnel, Nelson Bennett Tunnel, I think finished in 1912 by the guy's wife, Mr. Bennett's wife. He passed away. She took it over, ended up getting it done ahead of schedule and under budget, but she didn't get her name on it. But yeah, getting up on the tunnel and trying to get the biggest object you possibly could as a kid to then throw off at the train. That was, some of those great ideas we would have.
The hillside is it's like a highway where, a lot of different neighborhoods, you pull into your driveway. You close the garage door, you walk in your house. Here, you pull into your driveway and you walk and you walk and you walk and you walk. And then, there's a shared sense of trial, like everybody's dealing with the same thing. And so you might think, oh, I have to go down the house. I got to go down, walk down the rain. But then you see somebody on the hill, and we're all doing it. We're all doing it together. And so it's really not so bad when, because all of our neighbors are living the same life.
Age, death, taxes, and change. Those are only inevitable things in life, and we hate change so much. We'll fight it tooth and nail, even if it's for the better. Like totally help us out. We're still like, no. Weird creatures. Really weird. And I'm bitching and moaning about the beach changing and whatnot, and about things, bringing their new things down here with their making it easy to go up the hill. I'm doing it right now. Yeah, it's really sad watching the, Kelly B, Quigley, Marilyn and Roger, Joan, or, all these people, my dad, Paul and Liz, it's like, it's not going to be much longer until they're all gone, and all the stories, too. Thank God Roger is kind of like the official, unofficial historian. But man, the knowledge and stories that's getting lost is immense. But new stories are being made and new activities and such. But yeah, it's soon like every landing on the stair is going to be a memorial landing for somebody. Yeah.
I think if you worry too much about making sure that everything's safe, you lose out on life. You aren't guaranteed any time in this life anyways. And so I figure that you might as well live somewhere that feels amazing to you.